Tonight, we're going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. The room is quiet now, the hum of the evening settling around you like a soft blanket. Perhaps there's the faint sound of air moving, maybe from a fan or from the night breeze slipping through the window. A lamp glows nearby, gentle, casting a circle of calm light. Your breath rises and falls, steady and familiar, like waves against a shore. Negative energy sometimes feels like this lamp. Too bright, too harsh, glowing through fog that distorts everything around it. A single harsh memory, a tense word, a small frustration can become a lantern carried too long. Instead of guiding, it blinds, making the fog appear heavier than it is. The teachings we'll wander through tonight are a way to soften that lantern's glare, to set it down, and to walk on peacefully in the dark, trusting that the night itself is kind. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel called, share your location and the local time in the comments below. It's always beautiful to see the circle of listeners across the world, different places, different hours, yet one shared journey into rest. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey together. Negative energy is often misunderstood. People believe it comes from outside, someone else's words, the environment, the day's stress. But Buddhist teachings point inward. It's not the lantern itself, but how tightly we grip it that causes strain. The Buddha spoke of the mind's tendency to cling, to hold on to pleasure or pain, to magnify what could simply pass. That clinging feeds the lamp, keeps it burning too hot. Zen likens this to fog at dusk. When the lantern shines too brightly, the mist seems impenetrable. But when the lantern dims, you notice the stars overhead, the outline of trees, the vastness around you. Negative energy works the same way. When we soften our grip, space opens, and clarity emerges naturally. There is a Zen story of a monk who carried a lantern through a misty village at night. Villagers warned him, "Your lamp will not pierce the fog." He smiled and said, "It is not to pierce, but to remind me to walk gently." This small shift changes everything. Perhaps the tension you carry tonight, the worry, the heaviness, is not meant to be fought, but acknowledged as a guide. Walk gently. A question arises. Is the lantern of your own mind blinding you or guiding you? Zen masters ask not to judge, but to invite reflection. Perhaps the very negative energy you resist is pointing to tenderness that needs care. Here's a practice you can do right now. Place one hand on your heart and take 3 slow breaths. Inhale gently, feeling warmth under your palm. Exhale slowly, imagining the lantern in your chest softening, its glow becoming gentler. Repeat, letting each breath dim the glare until the light feels kind instead of harsh. The quirky Zen element here is the use of lantern walks in monasteries. Monks sometimes carry paper lanterns during ceremonies, knowing the flame is fragile, the paper thin. They walk slowly, carefully, embodying the teaching of gentleness. You can do the same in imagination. Carry your lantern lightly, aware of its fragility. As the night deepens, remember, the lantern of negative energy does not need to be thrown away. It can be carried with tenderness or set down entirely, depending on your step. Either way, you are not bound by its glow. You are larger than the light, larger than the fog, as vast as the night sky itself. Roots of suffering run deeper than surface frustrations. The Buddha taught that much of our pain comes not from the world itself, but from how the mind grasps at it. He spoke of craving, terasran, and aversion, devesa, as twin roots that feed the growth of negative energy. Craving longs for what we don't have. Aversion pushes against what we do. Together, they tangle like roots beneath the soil, unseen, yet holding us tight. Negative energy often sprouts from these roots. A harsh word stings not only because of the sound itself, but because aversion clings to it. I didn't want this to happen. A missed opportunity hurts because craving clings. I wanted something different. The roots drink deeply from the waters of clinging, and from them grow weeds of irritation, frustration, or despair. Zen offers an image, a garden left untended. At first, only a few weeds, but over time, they spread until the garden feels unrecognizable. The monk's task is not to curse the weeds, nor to abandon the garden, but to tend it with care, pulling, watering, cultivating balance. In the same way, tending the roots of suffering requires mindful presence. A Zen story tells of a farmer who dug endlessly to find the source of a spring. When asked why he worked so hard, he said, "Because once I find the root, the water will flow clear forever." The Buddha's teaching mirrors this. By understanding craving and aversion, we touch the root, and the stream of suffering clears. A practice for tonight. As you rest, scan your body slowly from head to toe. With each exhale, whisper silently, "I release." If you find tension, perhaps in your chest, your jaw, your stomach, acknowledge it softly. Ask, is this craving or aversion? Then breathe, loosening the root just a little. The quirky Zen element here is the practice of wall gazing, or zazen, as Bodhidharma taught. Monks sit facing a plain wall for hours, allowing roots of thought to surface. No distraction, no adornment, just the raw encounter with craving and aversion as they arise. For you, lying here, the blank canvas might be the quiet of your own room, the soft darkness behind your eyelids. And a reflective question emerges. What if negative energy is not the enemy, but simply the signal of roots asking for attention? Could you see anger not as failure, but as a root exposed, ready to be untangled? Imagine yourself beneath an old tree at twilight. You see its roots twisting through the soil, strong yet tangled. You kneel, brushing soil away gently, not to harm the tree, but to understand it. So it is with the roots of your mind. When uncovered with care, they lose their hidden power, and the garden can breathe again. The way out is in. By tending the roots rather than cursing the weeds, you step toward peace, not through force, but through understanding. The empty boat drifts silently on a river, carrying with it one of Zen's most enduring teachings. Imagine you are rowing across the water, mist curling low, lantern light dim. Suddenly, another boat bumps against yours. Irritation rises instantly. Who is steering so carelessly? But when you peer closer, you see the boat is empty. The anger collapses into laughter. There was no one to blame. This parable reveals how much negative energy arises from the sense of a solid self and other. When we believe someone has wronged us, our boat fills with stories. They hurt me. They meant this. I must respond. But if the boat is empty, if their action is simply the result of countless conditions, drifting without fixed intention, then anger has no ground to stand on. Buddhism teaches anatta, or non-self. Each person is a bundle of causes and conditions carried by currents larger than they know. That sharp word you received may have been born of their own suffering, not aimed at you at all. The bump on your river is often the drift of emptiness, not malice. Seeing this loosens the grip of resentment. A Zen story expands this. A student once asked why his master never seemed offended. The master replied, "How can I be struck if there is no one to hit?" He had come to see the self as fluid, not a fixed target. In that recognition, offense dissolved. Try this practice tonight. As you breathe, recall a recent irritation. Inhale, picturing the offending boat. Exhale, imagine it empty, drifting gently on the current. Whisper inwardly, "It was never mine to carry." Repeat until the chest softens, the grip of blame loosens. The quirky Zen element here is the practice of floating meditation. Some monks would lie on their backs in shallow rivers, letting the current carry them. They trained not to resist, not to steer, but to trust flow. You can do the same in imagination. Float gently, feeling that even collisions are part of the water's dance. And a reflective question arises. If the boat that struck you was empty, why cling to the bruise? Is the suffering in the bump or in the story told afterward? Zen invites you to see that most boats are emptier than we think. Picture the river again. Moonlight spilling across ripples. Boats drift silently, carried by unseen currents. Some bump, some pass, all move on. You sit quietly in your own vessel, lantern dim, no longer grasping. Negative energy fades as laughter rises softly. The boats were always empty, and the river always vast. Breath as refuge is perhaps the simplest and most profound teaching the Buddha offered. When negative energy feels heavy, when anger, fear, or sadness churn, the breath is always here, steady, gentle, forgiving. It does not demand understanding or solutions. It only asks to be noticed. Buddhism speaks of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, as a path to release. The breath is neutral, neither clinging nor resisting. It is the bridge between body and mind, the place where storms begin to settle. Each inhale brings freshness. Each exhale carries release. When negative energy rises like smoke, the breath is the clear air flowing through, dispersing it slowly, kindly. A Zen story tells of a student who came to his master, overwhelmed by rage. "I cannot stop it," he said. The master handed him a feather. "Blow on this." The student did, and the feather danced lightly away. "So it is with your anger," the master said. "It moves when the breath moves." Tonight, lying here, you can try the same. Place one hand gently on your belly. Inhale slowly through the nose, feeling the rise. Beneath your palm, exhale through the mouth, longer than the inhale, like a sigh. Whisper silently. Breathing in, I calm. Breathing out, I release. Repeat 3 times, letting your body sink deeper into stillness. The quirky Zen element here is the bell of breathing. In some temples, a wooden clapper is struck to remind monks to return to breath. No matter what they are doing, eating, sweeping, writing, they pause and take 3 conscious breaths. The practice is not about breathing differently, but about remembering that each breath is already a refuge. And a reflective question arises. If the breath is always here, why do we wander so far before coming back? Zen might smile and say, perhaps wandering is simply part of the journey, and returning is the real practice. Imagine your room now as a temple hall. A faint light glows. Shadows stretch softly. The sound of your own breath fills the space like a chant. Outside, the night air is cool, steady. Inside, the breath becomes your lantern, guiding gently through fog. Negative energy, no matter how heavy, cannot resist this rhythm. Inhale freshness, exhale release. The way out is in. With each breath, you return to the island within, finding that peace was never gone. It was waiting patiently in the rise and fall of your chest. Hungry ghosts of resentment wander in the dark corners of the mind. In Buddhist imagery, they are beings with immense bellies and thin throats, forever unable to be satisfied. They clutch for food, water, comfort, yet nothing can pass through their narrow mouths. These ghosts are not monsters. They are metaphors for the restless states of craving and bitterness within us. When we replay grudges and let anger loop endlessly, we feed the hungry ghost of resentment. The Buddha taught that clinging to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other to suffer. The hungry ghost is our own suffering, yearning for release. And yet, strangely, we keep feeding it, retelling the story, tightening the knot, nourishing the very thing that depletes us. Zen approaches this with compassion. A master once said, "Do not banish your ghosts. Invite them to tea." By acknowledging the hungry ghost instead of fearing it, you soften its grip. When anger arises, you might whisper inwardly, "Hello, dear ghost, I see you." Naming it transforms the endless appetite into an opportunity for care. Here is a practice tonight. Place both hands lightly on your belly. Inhale, imagining you are offering warmth to the hungry ghost within. Exhale, saying silently, "May you be at peace." Repeat 3 times until you feel the tightness begin to soften. This simple gesture turns resentment into compassion. The quirky Zen element here is the Segaki ceremony, where monks make offerings of rice and water to wandering spirits. Symbolically, it is a ritual of compassion for the restless energies of the world. You can do the same internally, offering presence to the restless parts of yourself. A reflective question arises. Is your resentment truly about the other person, or about your own ghost crying for care? Zen suggests that by turning compassion inward, the ghost begins to dissolve. Picture yourself in a moonlit clearing. A faint figure approaches, gaunt and weary. Instead of recoiling, you bow and offer them a bowl of warm tea. They sip, and for the first time, you see peace in their eyes. In that moment, the ghost no longer haunts. It transforms. Modern life often teaches us to suppress negative energy or explode it outward. Zen offers a third way: compassion. To meet resentment with gentleness is to free yourself from its endless hunger. So tonight, when the ghost of resentment appears, bow softly and say, "I see you. I offer peace." And then let it rest. The bamboo whisper carries a lesson subtle, yet profound. In Zen monasteries, groves of bamboo often stand near the meditation hall. At night, the wind brushes through the stalks, and the sound rises, hollow, bending, whispering. Each stalk sways, yet none breaks. The monks listen, learning how to let energy pass through without resistance. Negative energy, too, can be treated like the wind in bamboo, something that moves through you, not something that must be grasped or fought. Buddhism teaches anicca, impermanence, as the key to understanding suffering. No wind lasts, no sound remains, no emotion endures forever. Anger, frustration, sadness, all are like gusts. They seem powerful, but they pass, leaving the bamboo upright, resilient. When negative energy arises, it need not uproot you. You bend, you sway, you return. A Zen story tells of a master who asked a student, "Which is stronger, the oak or the bamboo?" The student said, "The oak, of course." The master shook his head. "The oak breaks in storms. The bamboo bends and survives." The teaching is clear. Flexibility is greater than force. You can try this practice tonight. As you lie in bed, imagine your breath as wind, your body as bamboo. With each inhale, feel the stalk sway gently. With each exhale, feel it return to stillness. Whisper inwardly, "This will pass." Repeat, allowing each thought of negativity to be carried like a breeze moving through hollow stems. The quirky Zen element here is the practice of listening meditation. Monks sometimes sit in bamboo groves, not focusing on breath or mantra, but simply listening to the rustle of leaves. In doing so, they dissolve inner chatter into the rhythm of nature. You can do the same in imagination, letting the whisper replace the noise of resentment. A reflective question arises. What if negative energy is not a storm to be stopped, but a wind to be felt? Could your role be not to resist, but to let it move through? Picture yourself beneath a tall grove, moonlight filtering through the leaves. The bamboo sways, the whisper surrounds you, endless, yet gentle. The one who caused your tension fades into the sound, no longer sharp, no longer personal, just part of the wind passing through. Modern life often demands rigidity. Hold your ground, stand firm, resist. But Zen invites flexibility. Bend, breathe, return. The bamboo whispers, strength is not stiffness, but softness that endures. So tonight, when the restless thoughts come, imagine yourself as bamboo. Hear the wind, feel it pass, and rest in the stillness that always returns. Impermanence of storms is a truth as old as the Buddha's first teachings. He reminded his followers again and again, everything changes. Joy fades, sorrow fades. Even the sharpest anger dissolves in time. What feels permanent in the heart is only passing weather in the sky of awareness. Negative energy often convinces us it will last forever, that the storm will never end, that the clouds will never part. Yet Buddhist teaching on anicca tells us otherwise. Just as every storm has a beginning, middle, and end, so do our moods and thoughts. The key is to remember that impermanence applies even to suffering. A Zen story tells of a monk who sat through a violent thunderstorm. Another monk asked if he was afraid. He replied, "Why fear what cannot remain?" When morning came, the sky was clear, the ground fresh with dew. The storm had vanished, leaving only silence. Here is a practice for tonight. Close your eyes and imagine a sky above you. See storm clouds gathering, dark and heavy. With each inhale, acknowledge their weight. With each exhale, watch them drift, opening to glimpses of starlight. Whisper inwardly, "This too will pass." Repeat until the tension in your chest feels lighter. The quirky Zen element here is sesshin. Intensive meditation retreats where practitioners sit through long hours of discomfort. Rain may pour, winds may howl, yet they continue still. In time, the storm outside becomes a mirror of storms inside, and both are seen as impermanent. Even the longest retreat ends, just as every storm does. A reflective question arises. If the storm of anger or sadness is temporary, why give it the weight of eternity? Could you treat it like rain on a roof, loud for a while, then fading into silence? Imagine lying in a small wooden hut at night. Rain lashes the roof, thunder rolls. You pull the blanket closer, feeling safe. Slowly, the sound softens. The storm moves on, leaving us only the fresh scent of earth. So too with your mind. The storm cannot stay. Modern life can make storms feel endless, constant news, repeated conversations, recurring memories. But impermanence whispers beneath it all. This moment will change. It always does. So tonight, if heavy thoughts circle, breathe gently and remember the truth of storms. They come, they go, but you remain. The sky, vast and calm, waiting for the stars to reappear. Tea steam rising is one of Zen's simplest metaphors for letting go of bitterness. In the dim quiet of a temple, a monk pours hot water over tea leaves. The steam curls upward, soft and fleeting, dissolving into the air. For a moment, it is visible. Then it vanishes without trace. Negative energy can be released in the same way, acknowledged, felt, and allowed to lift, leaving no residue. Buddhism teaches sati, mindfulness, as the art of presence. When bitterness or resentment arises, mindfulness does not demand suppression. Instead, it invites gentle attention. Like watching tea steam, you observe the feeling arise, swirl, and pass. The bitterness loses its weight when seen clearly. A Zen story tells of a master who poured tea for a student seething with anger. He said, "Watch the steam. Does it argue with the air?" The student shook his head. "Then why argue with what already passes?" The teaching was quiet but clear. Anger does not need to be battled, only seen as steam. Here is a practice for tonight. Close your eyes and imagine holding a warm cup. Inhale, picturing the rising steam. Exhale, whispering softly, "I release." Repeat 3 times, each exhale letting the steam of negativity rise and vanish into the night air. The quirky Zen element here is the silent tea ceremony. Unlike the formal chaji with elaborate rituals, some Zen practitioners drink tea alone, wordlessly, using it as meditation. Each sip is an act of letting go. You can do the same in imagination. Feel the warmth, taste the simplicity, let bitterness dissolve like steam. A reflective question arises. What if the energy you cling to is already leaving on its own, like steam? Could it be that the only task is to stop grasping at the vapor? Picture yourself in a quiet tatami room, a single lantern glowing. The kettle hisses softly, steam rising in slow spirals. You watch, you breathe, you smile. The face of the person who troubled you appears in thought. But even that image curls upward, dissolving like mist. Soon, only stillness remains. Modern life often stirs bitterness through repetition. Replayed arguments, screens showing reminders of past hurts. But even here, tea teaches patience. Steam rises, steam fades, no matter how hot the water. So tonight, when negativity arises, greet it as steam. Watch it rise, honor its brief dance, then let it dissolve. No effort is needed, only presence. The knot unbound is a gentle lesson in how resistance tightens suffering. Imagine a rope twisted and pulled from both ends. The harder each side strains, the tighter the knot becomes. Negative energy works this way too. Anger resisted becomes heavier. Sadness denied becomes sharper. Fear fought against grows more powerful. The struggle is what keeps the knot tight. Buddhism teaches about upadana, clinging. It is not just desire that binds us, but the grasping refusal to feel what arises. Clinging says, I must hold on to joy, or I must push away pain. Either way, tension builds. When you stop pulling, the rope softens. The knot loosens naturally. A Zen story tells of a monk who came to his master in frustration. My mind is tied in knots. The master silently dropped a coil of rope on the floor. Without pulling, it lay loose and harmless. This is your mind when you let go, the master said. The teaching was simple. Knots live in tension, not in the rope itself. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale gently and picture a knot in your chest, twisted tight. As you exhale, imagine letting your grip relax. The rope slackens slightly. Repeat with each breath. Inhale, see the knot. Exhale, soften. Whisper inwardly, I release the pull. Slowly, the knot becomes a loose cord, resting lightly in your hands. The quirky Zen element here is the monk's chore of untying old bundles of cloth or rope in storage. Instead of cutting them, they carefully loosen knots, strand by strand. It is meditation in patience, teaching that nothing need be forced. Your mind can be tended in the same way. A reflective question arises. Is the suffering in the knot itself, or in how tightly you pull at it? Zen suggests the latter, that your grip, not the rope, is what keeps pain alive. Picture yourself in a quiet wooden hall. A rope lies before you, tangled but soft. You sit, breathing, loosening each twist gently, never rushing. The rope yields. The more you soften, the more it opens. So too with your heart. The knot of negativity slowly unravels, strand by strand. Modern life often urges force. Cut the knot, fix it fast, be done. But Zen whispers, patience loosens more deeply. By breathing gently with your pain, you allow it to dissolve without tearing. So tonight, when heaviness returns, do not fight. Place down the rope. Loosen, soften, breathe. The knot will unbind itself in time. The mirror mind is a classic Zen image, consciousness as a polished surface, reflecting whatever stands before it. When negative energy appears, it is like a shadow crossing the glass. The reflection seems real, yet the mirror itself remains untouched. The trouble comes when we forget the nature of the mirror and believe the reflection is permanent. Buddhism teaches about citta, the heart-mind, as naturally luminous. Thoughts, emotions, resentments are like dust or smudges, temporary marks that obscure clarity, but never alter the mirror's essence. The Buddha reminded his disciples that the mind, when cleansed of clinging, shines by itself. This means that no anger, no sorrow, no heavy memory can stain you forever. A Zen story tells of a monk polishing a mirror daily. Another monk teased, "Why polish what is already clean?" The first replied, "So I remember its true nature." The act of polishing is less about removing dust than about remembering that clarity is always possible. Here is a practice for tonight. As you breathe, imagine your mind as a large, clear mirror. With each inhale, see a reflection appear. Perhaps a thought of anger, perhaps a lingering sadness. With each exhale, imagine wiping the surface gently, the reflection fading. Whisper inwardly, "I return to clarity." Repeat until the mirror feels luminous again. The quirky Zen element here is that some monasteries place mirrors at altars, symbolizing both the clarity of mind and the illusion of reflection. Bowing before the mirror is a reminder. What you see is not the whole, but a passing image. A reflective question arises. If a reflection disturbs you, does it truly alter the mirror, or only your gaze? Could it be that the negativity you feel is only surface shimmer, not your true essence? Picture yourself in a quiet room lit by lantern light. Before you rests a mirror, clear and wide. Shadows move across it, faces, storms, memories. But none linger. Each vanishes as quickly as it came. You lean closer and see only your own calm gaze, softened by the glow. Modern life bombards us with reflections, screens, images, stories, replayed endlessly. Yet behind every reflection is stillness, waiting. Just as no fingerprint remains forever on glass, no negative thought remains etched in your being. So tonight, when heaviness arises, remember the mirror mind. Breathe, polish gently with awareness, and rest in the clarity that was always there. Two monks and the river. This story has carried its wisdom through centuries. It begins with two monks traveling a forest path. They come to a river where a woman waits, unable to cross. One monk lifts her gently, carries her across the rushing water, and sets her down on the far shore. The woman bows in gratitude and departs. The monks continue on in silence. Hours pass. At last, the other monk bursts out, "We are monks! We should not have touched a woman. Why did you carry her?" The first monk smiles and says, "Brother, I set her down at the river." Why are you still carrying her? This tale reveals how negative energy lingers when we refuse to set it down. The event itself is brief, like crossing the river, but memory and judgment carry it endlessly, weighing us long after the moment is gone. The Buddha's teaching on dukkha, suffering, reminds us that much of our pain comes not from the experience itself, but from clinging to it afterward. Like the second monk, we carry burdens that no longer exist, replaying old stories as if they are still happening. A Zen practice is to ask, "Have I set it down?" When irritation arises, reflect, "Did I release it at the riverbank, or am I still carrying it through the forest of my thoughts?" Here is a practice for tonight. Recall a lingering resentment. Inhale, picturing yourself carrying it across a rushing river. Exhale, imagine setting it down gently on the far shore. Whisper inwardly, "I set you down." Repeat with each breath until your body feels lighter, as though a weight has been dropped. The quirky Zen element here is that monks sometimes rehearse this story physically, carrying logs or stones across a courtyard, then setting them down. The heaviness teaches them how absurd it is to carry what no longer needs holding. The body learns the lesson more deeply than words. A reflective question arises. What are you still carrying that has already ended? Zen would ask softly, "Is the burden real now, or only the memory of it?" Picture yourself on a quiet forest path at dusk. The river flows behind you, its sound fading. In your hands, there is nothing. Your steps grow lighter, the air cooler, the trees whispering above. You realize you are free because you chose to set it down. Modern life gives us countless rivers, conflicts, mistakes, disappointments. Yet the teaching endures. You cannot walk freely while holding every burden. To release is not to deny, but to return to peace. So tonight, when the face or the memory rises again, breathe softly and remind yourself, "I set you down," and walk onward, lighter, freer, step by step. The bell of mindfulness rings not only in temples, but also in the heart. In monasteries, when a great bronze bell resounds, everything stops. Monks pause mid-step, mid-sentence, even mid-thought. They bow their heads, breathe deeply, and return to the present. The bell is not an interruption, it is an invitation. negative energy can feel like noise, jarring thoughts, restless moods, echoes of anger. But what if each surge of negativity were treated like a bell? Instead of seeing it as disturbance, you could greet it as a reminder. Come home to yourself. The Buddha taught samadhi, mindfulness, as remembering to remember. Each wave of irritation is a chance to remember breath, presence, peace. A Zen story tells of a student who asked how to practice without a temple bell. The master struck the table sharply. "This sound is the bell," he said. "Every sound, every thought, every irritation can become your bell if you choose. Even the memory of the person or event that troubles you can ring, reminding you to breathe." Here is a practice for tonight. When a heavy thought arises, do not push it away. Inhale slowly and imagine the sound of a great bell resonating in your chest. Exhale, whispering inwardly, "I am here." Let the thought dissolve into the vibration, fading like a bell's echo. Repeat each time negativity rings. The quirky Zen element here is that bells are rung at unexpected times in some temples. The unpredictability trains monks to stop and breathe instantly, no matter the moment. Life, too, is unpredictable. Thoughts appear suddenly, but each can be treated as a bell. A reflective question arises. What if every troubling thought was not an enemy, but a teacher? Could it be that even negative energy is guiding you back to the present? Picture yourself in a misty valley at dawn. A bell tolls in the distance, its sound rolling through the fog. You stop, breathing deeply, your shoulders relaxing. The world feels wider, lighter. The sound fades, but its calm remains. Modern life fills our ears with alarms and notifications, but the bell of mindfulness is softer, kinder. It reminds us to pause, not to react. So tonight, let each troubling thought ring gently. Inhale, listen, exhale, return. The bell is always calling you back home. Walking in light rain is one of Zen's tenderest images of practice. A monk once said, "When rain falls, do not run, and do not stand still. Just walk steadily." This is the middle way expressed in motion. Instead of resisting the drops or clinging to dryness, you accept the rain as part of your path. Negative energy, too, can be walked through like rain, felt, acknowledged, and carried lightly without struggle. The Buddha taught moderation, avoiding extremes of indulgence and denial. Emotional storms work the same way. To drown in negativity is one extreme. To deny it completely is another. The gentle path is walking in the rain, aware, balanced, unhurried. The drops fall, but they do not drown you. A Zen story tells of a master who deliberately walked through storms without umbrella or complaint. When asked why, he replied, "The rain falls everywhere. Why should I not be touched too?" His serenity came not from avoiding discomfort, but from embracing it as natural. Here is a practice for tonight. As you breathe, imagine yourself walking slowly down a lantern-lit path in gentle rain. With each inhale, feel the coolness of drops brushing your skin. With each exhale, say inwardly, "I walk steadily." Notice how the rain becomes less burden, more companion. The quirky Zen element here is kinhin, walking meditation. Monks often walk in circles around the meditation hall, each step synchronized with breath. Sometimes they practice in rain intentionally, robes damp, steps steady. The teaching is simple. Peace is not found in escape, but in presence. A reflective question arises. What if your negative energy is just rain, not storm? Could it be that the heaviness you feel is only drops passing, never meant to harm? Picture yourself now, walking in drizzle through a quiet garden. Bamboo bends softly, lanterns glow faintly, the earth smells fresh. The face or memory that troubles you appears, but instead of sharpness, it feels like another drop, cool, temporary, already passing. You continue walking, steady, calm. Modern life urges speed. Run from discomfort, shield yourself, rush to dryness. But Zen whispers, walk slowly, let it be. Even in rain, peace can be found with each step. So tonight, if negativity arises, do not run, do not freeze. Walk gently in your imagination, step by step, letting the rain fall lightly until calm becomes your shelter. The garden weeds are teachers in disguise. In a Zen temple garden, monks rise before dawn to tend the earth. They sweep fallen leaves, trim branches, and, most importantly, pull weeds. Not with anger, not with haste, but with care, as though even the weeds deserve respect. Negative energy in the mind is like those weeds. Left untended, it spreads. But when approached gently, it becomes part of the practice of cultivation. The Buddha spoke of the mind as a field. Seeds of joy, anger, compassion, or resentment all lie within. What grows depends on which seeds are watered. Negative energy is a seed, but it does not have to overtake the field. With steady tending, balance returns. A Zen story tells of a master who instructed his students to bow before each weed they pulled. "Without weeds," he said, "we would not know the difference between wildness and care." The teaching is subtle. Weeds reveal the gardener's role, just as negative energy reveals the need for awareness. Here is a practice for tonight. As you rest, imagine a small garden in your heart. Inhale, noticing a weed, perhaps a resentment or worry. Exhale, and picture yourself bowing to it, then pulling it gently, roots and all. Whisper inwardly, "Thank you. I release you." Repeat until the garden feels lighter. The quirky Zen element here is Samu, work practice. Monks treat daily chores as meditation, not distraction. Sweeping floors, washing bowls, or pulling weeds becomes a way to tend the mind. You can bring the same spirit to your inner landscape, making even the removal of negativity a mindful act. A reflective question arises. Do you resent the weeds in your mind? Or can you see them as invitations to care more deeply? Picture yourself walking through a moonlit garden. Stones glisten with dew. Lanterns glow along the path. You kneel, fingers brushing the soil, gently lifting a weed. The air smells fresh. The ground breathes freely. The garden grows more spacious with each act of care. Modern life often tells us to eliminate negativity quickly, as though it were an enemy. But Zen reframes it. Tend it, understand it, release it with kindness. In doing so, the garden of your heart becomes peaceful again. So tonight, when heaviness appears, bow to it gently. See it as a weed to be tended, not cursed. And then, with patience, let it go until the inner garden feels calm and alive once more. Compassion for shadows is a lesson often overlooked. When negativity rises, the instinct is to fight, to push it away as if it were an intruder. But Buddhism teaches karuna, compassion, as the medicine for suffering. Even negative energy is a form of suffering. When you meet it with kindness, it begins to soften, to transform. The Buddha compared anger and hatred to darkness. Light does not battle darkness. It simply shines, and the darkness disappears. In the same way, compassion dissolves heaviness. This is not indulgence. It is understanding. To say, "Hello, dear anger, I see you," is to hold the shadow with light. A Zen story tells of a master whose student raged constantly. Instead of scolding, the master brought him a cup of tea each time, sitting quietly until the storm passed. The student finally asked, "Why do you never resist me?" The master replied, "Because anger is thirsty. I give it tea." The teaching was gentle. Shadows need compassion. not conflict. Here is a practice for tonight. As you lie in bed, bring to mind a feeling of heaviness. Place one hand on your chest and whisper inwardly, "Hello, dear shadow." Inhale, imagining you are offering it a soft smile. Exhale, saying silently, "May you be at peace." Repeat, and notice how the energy feels less sharp, more like a guest received kindly. The quirky Zen element here is the ritual of offering incense even for unseen beings. Monks light sticks not only for Buddhas, but also for restless spirits, symbolizing compassion for all, even what is troubling or invisible. You can do the same inwardly for your shadows. A reflective question arises. What if your negative energy is not an enemy, but a wounded guest? Could compassion be the very thing it has been waiting for? Picture yourself in a dim hall, lantern glowing faintly. A shadow stands at the edge of the room, restless. Instead of banishing it, you invite it closer, pour it tea, and sit together in silence. Slowly, the shadow softens, revealing it was only a part of you seeking comfort. Modern life often pushes us to conquer negativity, to overcome it aggressively. But Zen whispers another way: to bow, to hold, to soothe. Shadows, when embraced, become allies in healing. So, tonight, when negativity arises, smile gently and say, "Hello, dear shadow. May you be at peace." In compassion, the weight begins to lift. The stone garden's stillness is a sanctuary of silence. In Zen monasteries, raked sand stretches in patterns around dark rocks. The stones stand like mountains, immovable, while the sand shifts daily into flowing lines, reminders of impermanence. To sit before such a garden is to witness how heaviness and peace can coexist. The rocks remain, but they do not disturb the calm. They are embraced by it. Negative energy often feels like a heavy stone in the mind. It sits in the chest or belly, unmoving, unyielding. But the lesson of the stone garden is not to remove the rock, but to make space around it. By raking lines of attention around the heaviness, you integrate it into a wider stillness. Buddhism speaks of upekkha, equanimity, the balance of mind that does not reject or cling. The rock does not resist the sand. The sand does not resent the rock. Together, they form harmony. When you cultivate equanimity, even painful emotions become part of a larger piece. A Zen story tells of a master who raked his garden daily. One morning, a student asked, "Why do you erase yesterday's lines?" The master smiled, "Because each day is new. Stones remain, but the patterns change. The story reveals that our heaviness may stay, yet our relationship to it can be renewed. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, picturing the negative energy as a stone in the center of a sand garden. Exhale, imagining yourself raking gentle lines around it. Whisper inwardly, "You belong." Repeat until the stone feels less oppressive, more like part of the whole. The quirky Zen element here is dawn raking. Monks often rake gardens before the sun rises, beginning again no matter how perfect yesterday's patterns were. This ritual is not about perfection, but renewal. A reminder that today, too, the mind can be tended. A reflective question arises. Do you demand the stone vanish, or can you accept it as part of the design? Zen suggests that when you stop resisting, the stone transforms from burden into beauty. Picture yourself in a moonlit garden. Sand glimmers silver, patterns ripple outward. In the center rests a stone, solid, dark, still. You breathe, and the space around it widens. The garden is not broken by the stone. It is completed by it. Modern life often tells us to get rid of negativity, but Zen teaches integration. Create space around the stone, and the whole design becomes peaceful. So tonight, when heaviness returns, breathe and rake gentle patterns of awareness. Let the stone rest where it is, embraced by stillness. Dreams like smoke drift through the mind, insubstantial, yet strangely powerful. Negative energy often behaves this way, appearing dense and suffocating in the moment, but dissolving when examined closely. The Buddha compared worldly experiences to bubbles on a stream, phantoms, mirages, dreams within dreams. Anger, resentment, and sorrow may feel real enough to tighten the chest, yet in their essence, they are smoke, passing through open air. Buddhism teaches Maya, illusion. What we cling to most tightly is often the least substantial. When you replay a harsh word, the word itself has long vanished, yet its echo lingers like smoke. You suffer not from the word, but from the dream of it. When recognized as illusion, its weight lightens instantly. A Zen story tells of a monk who dreamed he was being chased by fire. He awoke in sweat, heart racing, yet no fire burned. His master said, "The mind creates its own flames. Why fear what smoke alone sustains?" The story reminds us that much of our negativity is self-created fire, gone the moment we open our eyes. Here is a practice for tonight. As you rest, imagine the negative thought rising as smoke. Inhale, watching it curl upward. Exhale, whispering, "This is only a dream." Repeat until the smoke thins leaving only clear air around you. The quirky Zen element here is the use of incense. In temples, sticks are lit not only for fragrance, but as symbols of impermanence. The smoke drifts upward, never lingering in one form, always dissolving into space. Monks watch the curls as meditation, learning how thoughts, too, dissolve when not grasped. A reflective question arises. If anger is smoke, why try to trap it in a jar? Could it be that your suffering comes not from the smoke itself, but from trying to hold what cannot be held? Picture yourself in a quiet wooden hall. Incense smoke rises, curling in the lantern glow. A troubling memory appears, but you see it join the smoke, twisting briefly before vanishing into the rafters. Soon, nothing remains but still air and your steady breath. Modern life often treats negativity as solid. Lists of grievances, records of wrongs, endless reminders. Yet Zen reminds us it is lighter than we think, dreamlike, already vanishing. So tonight, when heaviness returns, breathe gently. Watch the smoke of thought rise and whisper, "Only a dream." Let it fade, as it always will. The island within is a refuge no storm can reach. The Buddha, nearing the end of his life, urged his disciples, "Be islands unto yourselves, be lamps unto yourselves, with no other refuge." These words remain a compass for anyone caught in waves of negativity. When anger crashes, when sadness swells, when fear drags the mind under, there is always an island within, steady, grounded, unshaken. Buddhism teaches Dipa, the lamp or island, as a symbol of self-reliance rooted in awareness. Instead of depending on others to calm the storm, you discover solidity in your own breath, your own mindfulness. The storm may rage, but the island does not move. A Zen story tells of a fisherman caught in violent seas. He cried out for rescue, but his teacher, standing on shore, shouted back, "Do not cling to the boat. Swim to the island." At first terrified, the fisherman finally leapt into the water and reached solid ground. He wept, realizing that safety had been within sight all along. Here is a practice for Orya tonight. As you inhale, imagine waves rising around you. As you exhale, picture stepping onto a quiet island, firm sand beneath your feet. Whisper inwardly, "I am safe." Repeat, letting each breath anchor you more deeply to that inner shore. The quirky Zen element here is the solitary retreat of monks to remote mountains or small islands. In their seclusion, they discover that the true refuge is not the place itself, but the stillness cultivated inside. Even lying here, you can retreat into that same sanctuary. A reflective question arises. What if the storm is not meant to be conquered, but endured until you remember the shore? Could it be that you are already safe, even as the waves crash? Picture yourself now under moonlight. The sea glitters with silver foam, yet on your island, a fire glows warmly. Bamboo rustles in the breeze, sand cool under your feet. The storm rages offshore, but here, within, there is calm. Modern life often convinces us that peace lies elsewhere, in others' approval, in circumstances changing, in storms disappearing. But Zen whispers, the island is always here, within each breath. So tonight, when negative energy rises like a tide, close your eyes and step inward. Whisper softly, I am an island, and rest on the ground that no storm can shake. The koan of who is angry is a question that unravels knots at their core. When negativity flares, resentment, irritation, frustration, the mind points outward. They made me feel this way. That event caused my pain. But Zen turns the gaze inward with a quiet question. Who is it that is angry? Buddhism teaches anatta, the doctrine of non-self. The sense of I that clings to anger is itself a passing formation, no more permanent than the feeling it claims. When you look for the one who suffers, you find only thoughts, sensations, memories, like waves that appear solid but dissolve when touched. A Zen story tells of a monk who stormed into his master's quarters, declaring, I am furious. The master said, Bring me your anger. Place it here on the table. The monk froze. He could not find the anger outside his own mind. In searching for it, he realized there was no solid object to hold, only fleeting sensations. His fury dissolved in laughter. Here is a practice for tonight. When a heavy thought arises, whisper inwardly, Who is angry? Inhale, waiting for an answer. Exhale, noticing the silence. Repeat a few times, letting the question itself loosen the grip of the feeling. The quirky Zen element here is the use of koans, questions without answers that pull the rug from beneath logic. They are not puzzles to be solved, but lanterns that reveal the emptiness of what we cling to. Who is angry is one such lantern, showing the groundlessness of negativity. A reflective question emerges. If you cannot locate the one who is angry, then who exactly is suffering? Could it be that anger is simply a cloud passing, not a self to defend? Picture yourself in a hall of mirrors. You look for the face of anger, but each reflection shifts, blurs, vanishes. At last, you stop searching and see only the open space between the mirrors. Peace fills the room. Modern life tells us to define anger. Give it reasons. Give it targets. Give it stories. Zen instead asks, where is it, truly? In the looking, the solidity dissolves. So tonight, if anger stirs again, breathe and ask gently, who is angry? Let the silence that follows be your answer as the feeling fades into spaciousness. The candle burning low is a quiet teacher of impermanence. In Zen temples, candles are placed on altars not only for light, but also as reminders that all flames eventually soften, flicker, and go out. At first, the flame burns brightly, its heat strong. Over time, wax melts, wick shortens, glow dims. No one needs to blow it out. The flame ends naturally, leaving only a trace of warmth in the air. Negative energy behaves in the same way. Anger flares brightly, sadness burns steadily, worry flickers restlessly. Yet none of these can last forever. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are impermanent. To see your heavy mood as a candle burning down is to realize that time itself will soften it. You do not need to fight the flame. You only need to stop feeding it with new whack. A Zen story tells of a master who asked his students to sit before a candle as it burned to the end. He asked them, "Is the flame destroyed?" One replied, "Yes, Master." Another said, "No, it has only changed." The Master smiled. Both answers contained truth. The flame transformed into light, heat, smoke, space. In the same way, negative energy transforms when allowed to fade. Here is a practice for tonight. As you breathe, picture the heaviness in your mind as a candle flame. Inhale, seeing it flicker brightly. Exhale, imagining it lowering, smaller with each breath. Whisper inwardly, "This too will fade." Repeat until you feel the glow soften. The quirky Zen element here is kodo, the incense and candle ceremony. Practitioners watch smoke and flame together, observing their gradual disappearance. Instead of sorrow at endings, they cultivate gratitude for the light and fragrance given. You too can hold gratitude for what has passed, even as you release its lingering heaviness. A reflective question arises. What if the flame of your negative energy is already burning low? Could you allow it to fade without interference, trusting impermanence to finish the work? Picture yourself in a darkened room. A single candle flickers on the table, shadows dancing along the walls. You watch quietly. The flame bends, wavers, softens, and finally bows into darkness. Yet the room feels peaceful, not empty. The silence glows with calm. Modern life pushes us to extinguish negativity quickly, to blow it out forcefully. But Zen shows another way. Let the flame end in its own time. The peace that follows is more natural, more complete. So, tonight, when heaviness arises, breathe gently and remember the candle burning low. Its glow is already fading. Let it complete its course and rest in the darkness that follows. Night rain on roof tiles is one of Zen's most soothing teachers. In temples across Japan and China, monks lie awake, listening to drops striking clay roofs, each sound distinct, yet part of a larger rhythm. The rain does not hurry, does not argue. It falls as it must. Negative energy can be met in the same way, not as an enemy, but as sound, heard and released. The Buddha spoke often of Shraddha, trust in the present moment. To listen deeply is to trust that the now is enough. When anger or worry fills the mind, attention narrows. But when you listen to rain, whether outside your window or in imagination, the mind widens and heaviness loses its grip. A Zen story tells of a monk asked how he found calm. He said, "I listen to the rain." When pressed for explanation, he added nothing more. The story itself is the teaching. No reasoning needed, just presence with sound. Here is a practice for tonight. Close your eyes and imagine lying beneath a roof of wooden beams and clay tiles. Hear the drops fall. Soft, steady, sometimes scattered, sometimes strong. Inhale, receiving each drop. Exhale, whispering inwardly, "I let it pass." With each breath, your body grows lighter, carried by rhythm. The quirky Zen element here is Suzen, playing bamboo flute as meditation. Each note fades like rain on tiles, teaching the impermanence of sound. Monks do not play to entertain, but to listen. You too can hear your thoughts as raindrops, fading quickly into silence. A reflective question arises. What if your negativity is not thunder, but rain? Could you hear it as music, each drop part of a passing song? Picture yourself now in a small wooden hut. A lantern flickers, casting soft light. Rain falls steadily, its rhythm surrounding you like a lullaby. The worries in your mind become drops too, falling, sounding, fading. Soon, only quiet remains. Modern life fills ears with constant noise, alerts, engines, chatter. But to pause and listen, even for a moment, is to taste peace. So tonight, if heaviness stirs, lie back and listen for the rain, real or imagined. Each drop is a teacher. It falls, it fades, it frees. The forest hermit appears often in Zen tales, a solitary figure dwelling deep in the mountains, far from noise, yet surrounded by life. To live alone in a hut beneath tall pines is not to escape the world, but to discover how negative energy transforms when met with stillness. What we call loneliness, the hermit calls refuge. What feels like emptiness, the hermit sees as fullness. The Buddha himself retreated often to forests, teaching that solitude can be medicine. In quiet, you hear your own mind clearly. The rustle of leaves, the call of birds, the hush of night become mirrors for thought. Negative energy, once overwhelming, shrinks in proportion to the vastness around it. A Zen story tells of a hermit who was asked, "Do you not feel lonely here?" He replied, "How could I, when the pines chant sutras and the stones bow as I pass?" His joy came not from others, but from connection with all that is. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, imagining yourself in a forest hut, wooden walls fragrant with pine. Exhale, hearing the distant hoot of an owl. Whisper inwardly, "I am never alone." Repeat, letting the forest embrace you with each breath. The quirky Zen element here is the use of hermitage retreats. Monks spend weeks in silence, eating simply, walking among trees. Their solitude is not isolation, but communion. Even lying in your room now, you can enter this hermitage in imagination, discovering the companionship of stillness. A reflective question arises. What if your negative energy is simply the voice of loneliness, asking to be heard? Could stillness itself be the companion it seeks? Picture yourself under moonlit pines. The forest breathes with you, branches swaying gently, dew on the grass glowing like stars. The person or memory that troubled you fades, replaced by the vast company of silence. You smile, realizing you are held by more than you can see. Modern life often equates solitude with emptiness, but Zen whispers that aloneness can be wholeness. In the forest of the heart, even shadows become companions. So tonight, when heaviness arises, close your eyes and step into your inner hermitage. Whisper, "I am never alone." Let the forest hold you until rest arrives. The middle way of emotions is neither indulgence nor suppression, but balance. When negativity arises, anger, fear, sorrow, the instinct is often to swing to extremes. Some drown in the feeling, letting it carry them like a flood. Others tighten, pushing it down, pretending it does not exist. The Buddha's middle way teaches another path. Acknowledge the emotion, neither clinging nor rejecting, simply walking between. Buddhism speaks of Majjhima Patipada, the middle path the Buddha discovered after leaving extremes of indulgence and self-denial. Emotions, too, can be met this way. Instead of running from anger or wallowing in it, you can walk steadily, as if in gentle rain, aware, balanced, unharmed. A Zen story tells of a student who asked, "Master, what should I do with my sadness?" The master replied, "Hold it as you would hold a bird. Too tight, and it dies. Too loose, and it flies away before you have learned its song." The lesson is clear. Balance allows understanding without suffocation. Here is a practice for tonight. Bring to mind an emotion troubling you now. Inhale, whispering inwardly, "I see you." Exhale, whispering, "I let you be." Repeat, letting the emotion rest in your awareness without pressure. You are neither drowning nor denying, just holding lightly, like a bird in your hands. The quirky Zen element here is monks practicing in rain. Robes soaked, steps slow. They do not run to shelter, nor do they curse the storm. They walk evenly, embodying the middle way. You can walk the same path inwardly, allowing your feelings without being ruled by them. A reflective question arises. What if emotions are not problems, but teachers? Could it be that your anger, sadness, or fear carries a message you can only hear when you meet it calmly? Picture yourself at twilight, standing on a stone bridge over a river. The water flows steadily, not raging, not stagnant. The lanterns along the bridge glow softly, showing the way without forcing it. This is the middle way, peaceful, balanced, steady. Modern life often teaches extremes. Express everything or hide everything. But Zen offers a third way. Feel, acknowledge, let flow. Balance brings freedom. So tonight, if a heavy emotion rises, breathe gently and walk the middle way of the heart, neither clinging nor rejecting, simply present. The temple of compassion is not a building far away. It is a hall within your chest. In Zen stories, temples are described not only as structures of wood and stone, but as living symbols of the awakened heart. When negative energy arises, the temple of compassion offers space where all beings, even those who hurt you, are welcomed with a candle and a bow. Buddhism teaches metta and karuna, loving kindness and compassion, as remedies for the poisons of anger and hatred. When resentment lingers, it burns inward. But when you expand compassion, the fire cools. To wish peace for those who stirred your pain is not weakness, it is liberation. A Zen story tells of a monk who was insulted daily by villagers. Instead of reacting, he placed a flower on the altar for each insult. When asked why, he said, "Every harsh word is a reminder to grow compassion." By the end of his life, his temple was filled with flowers. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, picturing a temple glowing in your chest. Exhale, placing a single candle inside. Whisper inwardly, "May all beings be at peace." If someone specific troubles you, place their image gently in the temple, bathed in light. Repeat until the heaviness softens into spaciousness. The quirky Zen element here is the practice of chanting the Metta Sutta in the still hours of dawn. Monks chant blessings for every being, seen and unseen, near and far, friend and foe. The chant ripples outward like waves, carrying compassion into the world. You too can chant silently in your heart tonight. A reflective question arises. What happens when you open the temple doors wide enough to include even your enemies? Could their presence in your compassion free you as much as it frees them? Picture yourself walking into a vast hall lit by lanterns. The floor glows with polished wood. Incense drifts upward. Bells hum softly. In the center stands an altar, candles flickering. You place your burden there, bow, and step back. The hall grows warm, filled with peace. Modern life often narrows compassion to those we like or approve of, but Zen extends it endlessly until even shadows are included. In that widening, the heart grows lighter. So tonight, when negative energy stirs, walk inward to the temple of compassion. Place the memory, the resentment, the pain upon the altar. Whisper, "May you be at peace. May I be at peace." And let the temple hold it all. Clouds over the mountain drift and shift, yet the mountain itself does not move. Zen masters often use this image to describe awareness and thought. Negative energy is like a storm cloud, dark, heavy, looming. But awareness is the mountain, steady, unmoving, vast. The mistake is believing we are the cloud, when in truth, we are the mountain beneath. Buddhism teaches the distinction between the conditioned and the unconditioned. Thoughts and emotions are conditioned. They come and go, dependent on causes. Awareness is unconditioned, always present, unaffected by passing weather. When anger or sorrow arises, remembering this difference is like remembering the mountain under clouds. The sky may darken, but the peak remains. A Zen story tells of a student who asked, "How can I still my restless mind?" The master pointed to the mountain outside and said, "Does it tremble when clouds gather?" The student understood. The mountain remains unmoved. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, picturing a storm cloud forming in your mind. Exhale, picturing a vast mountain beneath it. Whisper inwardly, "I am the mountain." Repeat, feeling the solidity of your body on the bed, steady beneath shifting thoughts. The quirky Zen element here is Sangaku Zazen, mountain meditation. Monks sit facing mountains for hours, absorbing their stillness. Even from your room, you can imagine this. The mountain's presence seeping into your breath, reminding you of your own immovability. A reflective question arises. If you are the mountain, why identify with the passing clouds? Could it be that the storm only obscures your view, but never changes what you are? Picture yourself on a quiet slope at dusk. Clouds gather above, darkening the sky. But the mountain beneath your feet is solid, calm. The wind howls, rain falls, yet the ground holds you steady. Slowly, the clouds thin, revealing stars. The mountain never moved. Modern life often convinces us that we are our moods, labels of stress, anxiety, frustration. But Zen offers a reminder. These are clouds. You are larger than them. So tonight, when heaviness passes overhead, breathe deeply and feel the mountain in your chest. Whisper, "I am steady." Let the clouds drift, knowing they cannot touch the ground of your being. The lantern in the fog glows softly, showing the way without banishing all obscurity. In Zen imagery, fog represents confusion, heaviness, or negative energy, moments when the mind feels clouded and unclear. Yet a single lantern, carried with care, provides enough light for the next step. Not all the answers are revealed, but enough is given for peace in motion. The Buddha's teaching on sati, mindfulness, echoes this. Mindfulness is not a floodlight that eliminates all uncertainty. It is a small, steady flame that illuminates just this moment, just this breath. Negative energy often feels overwhelming because we demand clarity for the entire path. But Zen reminds us the lantern's glow is enough. A Zen story tells of a monk walking through fog with a lantern. Another asked, "Why carry it when the fog remains?" The monk lifted the lamp. "I do not carry it to clear the fog," he said, "but to see my own step." The story reveals that peace does not come from erasing the unknown, but from moving gently within it. Here is a practice for tonight. Close your eyes and imagine holding a lantern at chest height. Inhale, picturing the flame steady within. Exhale, seeing the shrug of confusion around you. Whisper inwardly, "This step is enough." Repeat, letting the light guide you calmly forward. The quirky Zen element here is the use of paper lanterns in night processions. Monks walk in single file, each carrying one fragile lamp. Together, the lamps form a river of light, glowing through darkness. You too are part of this lineage. Your lantern joins countless others, illuminating the way. A reflective question arises. What if you stopped demanding the fog clear before you could rest? Could it be that carrying the lantern of mindfulness is enough for peace, even in uncertainty? Picture yourself on a quiet mountain path at night. Mist curls low, obscuring the trees. Yet in your hands, the lantern glows warmly, showing stones, moss, and the gentle curve of the trail. You breathe, step, and trust. The fog does not frighten you now. It feels like a blanket of calm. Modern life often insists on total clarity, answers, plans, solutions at once. But Zen whispers, clarity comes step by step, lantern by lantern. So tonight, when negative energy clouds the mind, breathe and lift your inner lamp. Whisper, "This step is enough," and let the gentle glow guide you home. The mirror of forgiveness reflects both what was and what is possible. When negative energy lingers, it often takes the form of grudges, old hurts replayed like shadows on glass. Forgiveness is not about denying what happened, but about polishing the mirror so the reflection no longer distorts the present. The Buddha taught that holding resentment is like grasping a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone else. You are the one who burns first. Forgiveness cools the hand, placing the coal down gently. It does not erase the past, but it releases the need to carry its fire. A Zen story tells of two friends who quarreled. One wrote the other's offense in sand, where the wind soon erased it. The other wrote the kindness shown in stone, where it would endure. The lesson is clear. Let anger fade, but let gratitude remain. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, picturing a mirror before you, clouded with smudges of old anger. Exhale, imagining a soft cloth in your hand, wiping gently. Whisper inwardly, "I forgive." Repeat until the mirror gleams, reflecting peace. The quirky Zen element here is the ritual of water basins at temple gates. Visitors wash their hands and mouths before entering, symbolizing cleansing the mind of dust and grudges. Forgiveness is this kind of washing, refreshing, simple, necessary before stepping into stillness. A reflective question arises. Does forgiveness free the other, or does it free you? Zen suggests it is always you who is unbound when the mirror is cleared. Picture yourself in a lantern-lit hall. A tall mirror stands before you. At first, it shows only foggy outlines distorted with residue. But with each breath, you wipe gently. Soon, the reflection becomes clear. You see not the offender, not the wound, but your own calm face, smiling softly. Modern life often treats forgiveness as optional or as weakness. But in Zen, it is freedom itself. To forgive is to return to clarity, to see without distortion. So tonight, if resentment arises, breathe and polish the mirror. Whisper, "I forgive." Let the reflection shine, and step into the peace that was waiting behind the smudges all along. Listening to silence is one of Zen's deepest practices. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. Beneath the hum of the city, the rhythm of breath, even the echo of thoughts, silence waits, vast, unshaken, eternal. Negative energy often grows loud, filling the mind with noise. But when you tune into silence, its volume fades, like a bell's echo, dissolving into air. The Buddha taught that true peace is not found in adding more, but in letting go. He often retreated into forests, where silence spoke more clearly than words. Silence is the ground where suffering loses its hold, the space that reveals freedom. A Zen story tells of a master asked to explain enlightenment. Instead of speaking, he closed his eyes and sat in silence. The student waited, uneasy. Finally, the master opened his eyes and said, "Did you hear it?" The teaching was clear. Silence is not nothing. It is the answer itself. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale, noticing the faintest sounds around you. The hum of a fan, a distant creak. Exhale, sinking deeper into the silence beneath them. Whisper inwardly, "I rest in stillness." Repeat until the silence feels like a soft blanket covering the mind. The quirky Zen element here is the mokugyo, the wooden fish drum. Monks strike it rhythmically during chants, not for the sound alone, but for the silence that follows each beat. That pause is the true teaching. presence revealed in the gap. You can listen for these gaps tonight, where peace already lives. A reflective question arises. What if silence is not empty, but full? Could it be that the calm you seek is already here, waiting beneath the noise of thought? Picture yourself sitting in a darkened temple. The chanting has ended, the lamps grow dim, and all that remains is stillness. At first, you strain to hear something. Then you realize silence itself is the sound, vast and embracing. The heaviness you carried dissolves into this boundless quiet. Modern life often fears silence, filling every gap with noise or distraction. But Zen cherishes it, for in silence we return to what is essential. So tonight, when the mind grows noisy, lean into the quiet, listen deeply, and rest in the silence that was here all along. Be a lamp unto yourself. The Buddha's final words, spoken as he prepared to leave his body. This teaching is a compass for anyone struggling with negativity. It means to trust your own awareness, your own inner light, rather than depending on others to clear your darkness. No teacher, no friend, no memory of comfort can substitute for the lamp already burning in your heart. Buddhism teaches pramana, valid knowing, which arises from direct experience. To let go of negative energy, you do not need to borrow another's lamp. You need only remember the flame within, steady, patient, and always ready to guide the way. A Zen story tells of a master who handed his student a lantern for the walk home. As the student stepped away, the master suddenly blew out the flame. The student froze in darkness. The master said, "Now find your own light." The story reveals that true clarity arises when you stop depending on external sources and discover the lamp within. Here is a practice for tonight. As you inhale, picture a flame glowing at the center of your chest. As you exhale, imagine its light spreading gently through your body. Whisper inwardly, "I am my own lamp." Repeat until the glow feels steady, warming every corner of your being. The quirky Zen element here is the night procession of lanterns, where each monk carries a fragile flame, walking slowly through fog or darkness. Together, they form a river of light. Each lamp matters. Your inner flame, too, is part of this lineage of light. A reflective question arises. What if the guidance you seek is already within you? Could it be that the lamp you search for has never gone out, only been forgotten? Picture yourself walking through mist with a lantern in hand. Around you, fog thickens, obscuring the path. Yet the small flame is enough. You take one step, then another, the glow steady. The fog no longer frightens you. You carry your own light. Modern life often convinces us to look outward for solutions, advice, validation, distractions. But Zen whispers, the truest guide is already in your chest. So tonight, when heaviness stirs, breathe and remember the flame. Whisper, I am my own lamp, and let its glow carry you into rest. The homecoming of peace is the gentle conclusion of this journey. All the teachings of lanterns in fog, of mountains beneath clouds, of temples filled with compassion, point back to this moment, resting quietly in yourself. Negative energy, once heavy, has been seen for what it is: passing, transformable, insubstantial. What remains is the stillness that has always been here, waiting. Buddhism speaks of nirvana not as a distant realm, but as the extinguishing of fires within. When greed, anger, and delusion cool, peace is not created. It is revealed. Tonight, as your breath slows, you may feel a taste of this peace, like a calm lake reflecting the moon. A Zen story tells of a student who asked, "What is peace?" The master pointed to a cup of water. When stirred, it is cloudy. When still, it reflects the sky. The story reminds us that peace is not something to earn. It is what arises when the stirring stops. Here is a practice for tonight. Inhale softly, feeling the rise of your belly. Exhale slowly, longer than the inhale, whispering inwardly, peace is here. Repeat, letting each cycle calm the waters of the mind. The quirky Zen element here is shikantaza, just sitting. In this practice, monks do not chase enlightenment or fight thought. They simply sit, allowing everything to be until peace reveals itself. You too can practice this by simply lying still, letting go of effort, letting peace emerge naturally. A reflective question arises. What if peace was never lost, only hidden beneath clouds of thought? Could it be that your journey has always been a homecoming, not a search? Picture yourself by a quiet lake under moonlight. The surface is smooth, stars shimmering upon it. The winds have stilled, the waters calm. You see your own reflection there, not strained, not heavy, but serene. This is your true home. Modern life often convinces us that peace lies elsewhere, in achievement, in others, in tomorrow. But Zen whispers, peace is here, in this breath, in this silence, in this very moment. So tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let yourself come home. whisper softly, "Peace is here," and rest in the stillness that holds you completely. Now, as your breath slows and your body softens, let all teachings fade into the background, like lanterns gently dimming at dawn. You no longer need to hold stories or images, only the rhythm of your own breathing. Each inhale brings cool night air. Each exhale releases the weight of the day. Feel your shoulders loosen, your jaw unclench, your hands grow heavy at your sides. The bed beneath you supports every part of you, as though the earth itself is holding you with care. The mind may still flicker with thought, but even these are soft now, like fireflies glowing briefly before fading into the dark. Picture yourself lying beside a still river, stars above shimmering in silence. The water flows slowly, carrying every fragment of worry downstream. Leaves float gently past, each one a thought, a memory, a trace of negative energy. You watch them drift away, and the surface grows calmer, smoother, until it reflects only the moon. The way out is in. You have walked through temples, gardens, rain, and mountains, each step guiding you closer to this moment of rest. Now there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, no burden to carry. Peace has always been here, patient and steady, waiting beneath the noise. So let yourself dissolve into this quiet. With every exhale, release more deeply. With every inhale, feel yourself a lighter. The night holds you, silence surrounds you, and peace fills you. Sleep comes naturally now, like a boat drifting on calm water, guided effortlessly by the current. Rest well, dear one. Peace is here, always has been, always will be.